Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Keep Calm and Flute On. I think this is number, oh my gosh, 7 or 8. It's been a while, and I'm sorry. I've been adjusting to teaching both flute and aural skills online now, so it's quite an interesting experience, and it's taken me away from thinking a little bit more in depth about these flute topics. One topic that I've asked a few people about, and no one seems quite interested in tackling it, is throat noise. And I know this is an issue that a lot of flutists maybe deal with on a regular basis, or maybe it creeps up every so often and they're playing. So I just thought I would give my tools, share my tools with you, what has worked for me and my students. And so it'll be a quick little video, and I would love to hear and see your own videos about what works for you and your students. So the first one, the first idea that I like to use is that I tell my students to imagine that the passageway for the air stays clear, almost like a test tube. So the air and like just moves really freely through. It does not get stuck along the way. So the air is, you're not squeezing your air passage, you're keeping it open and clear. And sometimes that helps my students get rid of throat noise. I know, there's a lot of talk about keeping the throat open, and I don't use that particular phrase in my teaching. I think when you use that along with maybe saying, well, it's like when you yawn, oh, like I feel like there's a little bit of tension that's introduced when you yawn. So I try and stay away from that in my own personal teaching. But if it works for you, then great. So there is one thing connected with that, and I've probably talked about this book before. It's one of my favorites recently, and that is Amy Leikar's breathing book. It's just an amazing resource, and I can't recommend it highly enough. It's only $20, so you should definitely check it out. But she says here, so we have the trachea, and you can easily feel your trachea in front of the neck. And notice that, she says, notice that it consists of rings of cartilage, which you can feel. She says this construction ensures that the trachea remains open at all times. As you inhale, there is no need to use muscular effort to hold the trachea open. So that's a really interesting thing. So the trachea is open. We don't need to force it open necessarily, and that might increase some tension in the throat area or maybe the tongue. So the other idea I have that sometimes works, and that I discovered when, when you're on stage about to have an orchestra rehearsal and everybody around you is playing really loudly, maybe the clarinets are practicing their E flat orchestra excerpts, and you're like, oh no. I like to use 2 earplugs. So I have a couple here, fairly well used. And I like to put them in, one in each ear. And I feel like I am less focused on the purity of my sound and how it's coming out. And I am able to focus more on what the inside of my body feels like. I can notice if my tongue is really heavy. And obviously, if I'm using throat noise, I can really hear it with earplugs in. So sometimes I like to practice with 2 earplugs in and just noticing where is any tension happening. And then when I take them out, I always feel like my sound sounds better. And I don't know if that's true or if it's just because the earplugs aren't in. So try it out and let me know what you think. I'm curious. So the other thing I want to offer is, we often like to have powerful low notes, and I think sometimes we want to get so physically involved in making them loud and come out that our throat wants to participate too. Something like that. Something like that. And of course, the note just sounds terrible. So one exercise I've given to students is the Moïse in De La Sonorité. I believe it's like page 15 or 16, where he has the intervals. And I like to do these tongueless attacks. So you really are only using air. So if you can play those without using your throat, then you have a higher chance of success when you add in just the tip of the tongue. Another option, I think, and this is something that I've used for double tonguing as well. It's an idea that I got from Keith Underwood, who's, of course, just a great asset to the flute community. And that's, you take a piece of paper, like a half sheet, and you roll it up into a tube about the size of a quarter, the diameter. And sometimes I like to practice blowing through a phrase just with the tube, so I can hear any funniness that my air is going through. Now, of course, you're really unlikely to use your throat in this case because we're just blowing air out, we're just exhaling. So if you want to practice a phrase using just a paper tube, very inexpensive, you can also practice your double tonguing. And it kind of amplifies what the air is doing as you are blowing through the phrase. So those are my ideas. So I'll just review them again. So keeping the passageway clear and clean. The air does not get stuck along the way. Use earplugs. And we have the Moïse exercise, and then we also have the half sheet of paper. So enjoy, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Bye.